Hello, welcome back. We're taking a look today at our creative power with the invitation to release your creative power because only you can limit it. That may not feel like that's the case here in the world, but we'll spend a few minutes today talking about why that is exactly the case. Only you can limit your creative power, and God wills you to release it. Today, God wills you to release your creative power. So we'll talk about this here. And we've moved on to another section of the text of A Course in Miracles today. Chapter 7 and section 9 now, which is entitled appropriately The Extension of the Kingdom. And this is the only function of spirit, the extension of God's being, the extension of the kingdom of God. Now, what we mean by extension means the sharing, the full, complete, total sharing of God's being. And by the way, this is your being. It's being, period, in which we're all included because there is only perfect oneness. So, to the extent that you're practicing and studying this material, and there's some verbal math that's coming up, yes, the answer is yes. One with means one with. And now, who and what is one with God? Well, this image that you see in the mirror and that you currently see on your screen of your device is not the Son of God. It's not who we are. We're not a body. You are not a body. If you're new to A Course in Miracles, the Course presents this idea over and over and over again in many places, in many ways. Why? Because we're all adult learners and we need to hear it multiple times. So we do. In fact, if you're going through the workbook for students, there is a review period. There are several review periods built into the workbook where we work on ideas for a certain number of days, and then we go back and review them in a slightly different light. The same ideas, the repetition, it's just the way we learn in the world, is we see the same ideas over and over. But there is a very well-known refrain here in the course with a rhyming scheme in English that's deliberate, absolutely deliberate, so that it sticks in our mind. And this may be familiar to you. It's, I am not a body. I am free, for I am still as God created me. With a rhyming, deliberate, so that it sticks. And that forms the basis of lessons 201 through 220. So it's such an important idea that the workbook contains it for 20 consecutive days, which, if you've ever been through this, is certainly a decent amount to allow it to stick. And it's one of those statements from A Course in Miracles that's very memorable. And part of it, let's be honest, is memorable here in the world because you may find yourself resisting the idea that you're not a physical body because the world teaches us this is me. This is me. This thing that can't stand the prick of a pin that, well, quite obviously isn't what it used to be in terms of appearance. I mean, it doesn't remain the same, and eventually it loses its vitality. And now, may this be years from now for you, but you know what we're saying here. It loses its vitality. and just kind of flops over one day. Now, here in the world, we call that death. But here's another idea from A Course in Miracles: there is no death. The Son of God is free. Let the ego chew on that. You may be experiencing some resistance to this, and that is 100% perfectly natural. Oh, yeah, absolutely, it is. Expect that on the path. Why? Because we've identified with the ego, we've identified as individuals. We're running around here in this world just taking for granted that we're separate from our brother, that we're separate from God. Impossible. Impossible on both counts. There is no separation of any kind. So while we appear to see 8 billion plus human bodies, what we label human bodies, then we also see animals and fish, and there are countless microorganisms and insects and all of this. There just appears to be a mass of divisions and subdivisions and classifications and subclassifications and categorizations and subcategorizations, till you may find yourself one day exhausted, fed up, frustrated, sad, depressed, maybe enraged, exhausted, and looking for a path to peace. You've heard this call. That is why you're on what we call the spiritual path. And it is definitely, most definitely, why you're watching this video about this particular path, A Course in Miracles, which cuts right to the chase. You are not a body. You are spirit. You're just as God created you. Oh, and ideas, in other words, thoughts of God, you and me, everyone, ideas leave not their source, capital S. Capitalize it. Here in the text of A Course in Miracles, we see many different iterations of this idea. Ideas leave not their source. Thoughts remain in the mind of the thinker. You are the thought of God. Where are you? Who are you? You know. Deep down, we all know. And we're responding to the call, which, by the way, is what I appreciate more than anything, more than the subscriptions, which of course I do appreciate. Don't get me wrong. And all of the likes and the comments, what I appreciate more than anything is your answering the call. In other words, your dedication and commitment to your practice. That is the highest form of offering you can give anyone, anywhere, anytime. It benefits everyone, literally. So thank you for that. Only we can limit our creative power, and we limit it by believing that we're individual self-sustaining survival units when we're not. We're spirit, singular. And the thought of God, God's creation, one with our creator, having never left our source, because love, God, simply extends itself. It doesn't extend anything else. Love doesn't extend hatred. Hatred is not love, and love is all there is. It's what's real. Now, here in the world where we think hatred is real and tangible, it's simply a mistake, which we all know deep down is a mistake. So this process, and it appears to be a process of various lengths, depending on who appears to be going through the process, this process is merely a matter of our accepting truth just as it is, rather than all of these fabricated, made up, make believe ideas about ourselves. Ideas such as this world is all there is. No, it's not. What world? That's the central teaching, by the way, of A Course in Miracles. Let the ego chew on this. There is no world. Your spirit. What is there but spirit? Nothing. Nothing. Here in the study and practice of this course, these statements, what we've just talked about, can be seen as really, really deeply comforting. You could see it that way. And maybe you do, maybe you don't at this exact point in time. You could see it as comforting. You could also see it as a confirmation, which is also comforting, of something that you've always known. And maybe you've not been able to articulate it, but you've always had an intuitive gut sense of this, of the total oneness, of your total wholeness and oneness with God. And perhaps you've become aware of this from time to time. And perhaps it's sporadic, or perhaps it's more constant. But you could see all of this as a confirmation of what you already know. Now, it's also entirely possible to see it as a mortal threat, to have all of this, all of these metaphysics, all of these ideas from A Course in Miracles freak you out. And it's possible that you're experiencing that too, because we all experience it on the path. We appear to be here because we've identified as individuals, as an ego, as an individual self-sustaining survival unit that looks something like this in the mirror. So we've all gotten together and placed a label upon this, calling it Homo sapiens sapiens, human beings. And Homo sapiens sapiens, that is a collection of sounds. It's a made-up collection of sounds. Every division, including the body, including the world itself, and space and time, which are, when you think about it, separation devices. We appear to be separate from one another in this thing that we call space. We appear to be in different countries, on different continents. In fact, that's one of the cool things about modern technology, is you can watch this from anywhere in the world. We appear to be separate in space. We also appear to be separate in time, because we parsed out this world, the spinning ball of rock, into 24 little segments that we call time zones. We appear to be separate in time in this current lifetime, and then throw in what we conceive to be linear time, where our grandparents may no longer be with us. They died in the past. Other people have come and gone in this world in historical epochs, and as long as the illusion of time continues, there's going to be more of that in the future. So let it be a comfort rather than a threat to you to know that there is no time. Being, reality, our oneness, truth is beyond all concepts of space and time. It's eternal. It simply is. That is why it is said throughout A Course in Miracles, God is. Period. Now, the interesting thing that we've been alluding to is what is implicit in that statement, that two-word, two-syllable statement, God is. What's implicit here is that only God is. All else is illusion. We're invited to release our creative power. The mind of God. Of course, the ego is that voice of resistance. So we've talked about this a little bit here today. To the extent that you're experiencing some mortal threat, some existential threat here, that is the ego that's always afraid. We have a choice in the present moment to side with love instead of fear, to side with your inner teacher, who's issuing the call to each and every one of us 24/7, by the way. You're responding to it. You're listening. So listen some more and then do what your inner teacher suggests. Forgive the Son of God. Release the Son of God. Release your creative power. And when you notice yourself carried away by the judgment victim game, the blame game, scrolling your social media feed and finding yourself judging and condemning everyone's post as ridiculously stupid or as hateful, or condemning someone for their beliefs that they're spouting out on social media just because they can. When you find yourself in that place, just return your awareness to forgiveness of the Son of God. If you're going through the workbook, return your awareness to the idea of the day. Return your awareness to getting in touch with your inner teacher and giving your entire experience over to your inner teacher, which may sound scary, but in fact, it's very comforting, because how's doing it on your own working out for you? How's it working out for you? Do you experience the peace of God and nothing else? Not yet. All right. Well, we're invited to want only that. And mind is so powerful that when we want that and when we reinforce that and forgive and release and forgive and release, rinse, repeat, as this snowballs, so to speak, it is indeed like an exponential curve, up and out, if you want to think of it that way. There's really no place that we're going because we've never left our source. So here in the illusion, the exponential curve up and out may be really helpful to you. We're invited to want the peace of God and nothing else. And the extension of God's being is our only function as spirit. And this is a thought, it's an idea in A Course in Miracles that causes people a lot of trouble, because we identify as a human body. So what we in fact need is the repetition of the idea that this is not you. It's not our home. Now, people often erroneously believe that that means that they don't have to take care of this thing. Yeah, well, I'm just going to sit on the couch, hit the bong. I'm not going to, I'm just going to eat some chips, and I'm just going to let this whole thing go. Well, that's not responsible. This may not be who you are. However, everyone in the world, especially those who have not been exposed to these ideas, and even those that have, this is a communication mechanism, is it not? It is. It's that's how I'm using this appearance on your screen right now. we're having a conversation with each other. The body is very useful when given over to your inner teacher. Give it over to your inner teacher for his purposes, for its purposes, for her purposes, for their purposes. You can call your inner teacher whatever you want. It's inner, part of your mind. So call your inner teacher what you will. Give your inner teacher your entire experience and allow him to run the show. Try it and see what happens. Now, the ego is fear. It's afraid for you to believe that you're something other than the physical body. Yet you know that you are something other than the physical body. So give all of your doubts, all of your fears over to your inner teacher and let him do his thing. It's like shining a light in a dark room, flipping on a light switch. The darkness is gone instantly, isn't it? It's as though it were never there. And guess what? It never was. Ideas leave not their source. Though we see here on the path that we cannot emphasize these ideas enough. You are not a body. You don't have to believe that, for sure. Skepticism and doubt has a very useful purpose on the spiritual path. And it doesn't have to sound weird. It does. It has a very useful purpose when given over to your inner teacher. It's perfectly normal to question everything that appears to be coming out of this screen, this volume device, this thing. Question everything that appears to be coming out of this mouth. Do. Why not? This is self-inquiry. Spirituality is about self-inquiry. So why wouldn't you ask questions? That's the point. Why wouldn't you entertain these ideas? Here's where skepticism is useful, and here's where it's not useful. It is not useful if you stop only with just questioning this image on your screen and the veracity of the course itself, and just stopping with that. I mean, you're welcome to question any teacher of any spiritual tradition anywhere in the world throughout space and time. So what, right? Perfectly normal. Don't stop with that. Here's where skepticism becomes very useful indeed. If you get over the fear and let it go, give it over to your inner teacher, forgive and release it, and keep going and question everything. And we mean everything, up to and including the foundations of everything you now believe. Don't stop until you've questioned that. That is how this questioning mind can be put to very good use. Eventually, we're all going to question deeply, and we're going to find the ego lacking. We're going to find it has brought us nothing but pain and suffering. Because while we might have hot, sexy moments, really, we might have some beautiful periods in life, they don't last. Even our most beautiful relationships here in the world don't last either. Nothing in this world lasts because there's no world. It's not eternal. It's nothing. And if it takes time to accept these ideas, no problem. No problem at all. That's what time is for. It's for us to make the decision in the present moment that we want the peace of God and nothing else, because there is nothing else. Is to choose the thought system of our inner teacher instead of the thought system of the ego, which we've all had enough of, haven't we? It's lacking in every way. It doesn't bring us what we ultimately want, because ultimately we want the peace of God. You may not consciously say that that's what you want right now, but again, that's what this course is for. That's what these exercises are for. That's what these videos are for. That's what all of this is for, is so that you may make that present moment choice, that you want the peace of God and nothing else, that you forgive the Son of God, that you forgive the world, space-time, the ego itself, everything that appears in your experience. Anything that is not wholly and completely joyous, because that is who you are as a spirit, wholly and completely joyous. Joy, love, limitlessness, eternity itself, the peace of God. There is nothing else. Thank you, as always, for joining me. So, just a couple of quick invitations here. If you have not subscribed, please go ahead and do so. The subscription button's down here in the corner of our screen. That's the red arrow. So go ahead and click that. We'd love to have you join us. What we've got going on here is an international community with some very, very interesting questions being asked here. I invite those as well. So, questions and comments. Again, this is a process of self-inquiry. That's what spirituality is, and that's what all of this is about. So, questions should naturally come up. If you've got them, please feel welcome to ask them. And if you're just starting out, this video series is designed for everybody. You want to know why? There's only one of us. That's the truth. So, here is a practical matter. A Course in Miracles is a self-study curriculum. It is literally for everyone. It's universal in theme and application. So whatever your background, you're more than welcome to tune into these videos, to subscribe, to ask questions, and understand whether you've had 30 plus years of experience with this material or if you're just checking it out for the first time. It doesn't make any difference. These ideas apply to all of us. They're universal. Universal. There's only one of us anyway. So, of course, they're universal. There's no such thing as a dumb or a basic question that's too basic, right? Often we don't ask questions because we don't want to seem like we're brand new and that we don't know, or we figure that we should know something. Well, if you've got one of those questions, that's the one I invite you to ask the most. These are the most important. You want to know why they're the most important. Sometimes, as adult learners, we think that we've been there, done that, that we know this. It's so yesterday. And we even say things like that. We think that just because we've heard an idea before that we don't need to hear it again. Oh, not true. There are people out there that have been doing this for 20 or 30 years that will benefit so much from what seems to you to be a basic entry level question that you should ask it. We all need to hear the basics again and again until we accept these ideas and until we put them into practice, because that is where the action lies. It's where it is in all spirituality, no matter what the tradition. So in that sense, A Course in Miracles is absolutely no different from any other. It's about the practical application. Our experience shows us these ideas are true. You want proof? Forgive the Son of God and see what happens. Oh, yeah. Our experience shows us. That's how we learn, experientially. All right. So thank you so much for joining me. I will see you soon.